What's up guys, it's Joey. How are you guys doing? So this is gonna be part 2 of my experience climbing Mount Kilimanjaro in Tanzania. So if you haven't seen part 1 of this video, go ahead and click right here and watch that one. That one kind of goes over like the planning we did, the gear we used, the route we took, all that kind of stuff was wrapped up into that video. So in this video, we're kind of gonna go day by day, what it was really like climbing Mount Kilimanjaro every single day, what changed, how the food was like, what the elevations were, how much we climbed every single day, all that stuff we're gonna talk about here. So I'm gonna jump right back in where I left off last time. So we left the town of Moshi at the base of Kilimanjaro at about 8:30 in the morning and had to travel about 3 hours by van to actually get to the entrance gate. So that is where you're gonna pay your park fees, and they're gonna check all your bags and check the porter's weight because they have to make sure every porter doesn't carry more than 20 kilograms. It's a good way for them to keep jobs in place if you have to have this many porters for this many people and all that kind of stuff. So what actually goes in your day bag is very, very little. You're not carrying much. The porters pretty much carry everything. You have some water, some snacks, some sunscreen, a jacket, a rain jacket just in case, something like that. Definitely sunglasses and a hat. I highly recommend bringing those because it is sunny. You're in the middle of Africa. So I actually still have my hat from the mountain. We all ended up buying these Kilimanjaro hats. They're pretty cool and definitely very, very useful because the sun is gonna be brutal on you all the time. So this guy came up to us and was trying to sell us these hats for like $5 or $10 US, and I was like, I have no cash, but I have 20 LD, and if you saw my other Africa video, you know 20 LD is worth like 15 cents. And he was like, yeah, deal. And I was like, no, like this isn't worth anything. This is not money that you want, and you can't even spend this. And he was like, no, 20 LD, yeah. And he like acted like he knew, and I was like, this is worth like 15 cents. And he was trying to sell these for $5, and I was like, you don't want this. And he like kept on trying for it, and I was like, okay. So yeah, I got this hat for about 15 cents. It came in super useful on the mountain. It had a little picture of it. It was a very cool hat. We wore these things every single day. They were just so nice, and it is brutal on the mountain. So you're gonna want a lot of sunscreen, definitely sunglasses, and a hat like this. If you can find one in Moshi for 15 cents, definitely go for it. Best purchase I've ever made. So day 1 was pretty short. I think it was only 2 or 3 hours of climbing. It's just kind of getting you warmed up. We hiked maybe 4 miles, I think, up to 9,000 feet. You do start pretty high. I think you start at 6,000 feet is where they drop you off at the park gate. But yeah, it's just kind of getting you warmed up. As soon as you start going, all the guides will tell you like slow down. So they all say pole pole, which means slowly, because if you go too fast in those first couple days, you have a much higher chance of altitude sickness. So you want to take it really slow. They kept telling us like the athletes and the really fit people are the ones that ended up not making it. So those are the ones that end up getting altitude sickness for going too fast. So they kept slowing us down, and they put the guys in front of us, and they would be going literally like this up the mountain. And you are like, come on, like this is slower than half of my walking speed. But that's what you got to do those first couple days, especially. By the end, you'll be wanting to slow down. But at first, it's like a snail's pace for real. And so it's just getting used to it that first day. They just kind of want you to sleep on the mountain. Day 2 is a lot longer. I think we hiked about 10 miles on day 2, but it is very flat. You're crossing the Shira Plateau, but it is just in the sun, and it's brutal, and it's like desert. So there's not much cloud coverage because you're already above the clouds. You're already out of the rainforest, so there's not many trees, and it's just kind of shrubs and bushes, and it's hot and intense. I think we camped at about 12,600 feet, I want to say. And so at that point, you're already above like what skydivers jump out of planes at. You're very high in the mountain. You're above the clouds. You're above all that kind of stuff. It's still only day 2, but that is the day where people start to drop. So you'll notice you camp with the same groups of people. You're all kind of climbing it together. And on day 2, like our guides would come into our tent and be like, oh, you know, this group, like they didn't make it, they're turning back. Or this group, they're turning back. So all the guides know the different groups. They're gossips. I mean, they will tell you like, they're not gonna make it, or like, oh, yep, I knew it, they didn't make it, and stuff like that. So that is kind of funny that the guides kind of talk about it to you, unless you're one of those groups that didn't go, then it's probably not funny, but we made it, so. But also on day 2, the group kind of splits because there are 2 different campsites, one about the halfway point and one all the way across the plateau. And so that is what you're gonna do. If you're gonna do an 8-day hike, you'll get to camp in the middle. We were doing a 7-day hike, so we camped at the end. But I don't really think that day makes too much of a difference between the 7 and 8 day because it is so early on. It just gives you an extra night on the mountain, and it is gonna split up that long day. So instead of 10 miles, you're gonna hike 5. So I guess I can take a second also to stop on day 2 and talk about the food. So the food was actually really good. They bring so much for you to eat on the mountain because you are camping and hiking every day, so you're burning a lot of calories and stuff. So they wanna feed you as much as possible to keep you going. They bring a lot of veggies and chicken and rice and eggs and all that kind of stuff for you to eat. But as you go up, you do have to realize like you're on a mountain, there's no ice or refrigerators or anything. So as you go up, the stuff that's gonna keep starts to wind down. And so definitely enjoy those meals in the first couple days because that's where you're gonna mainly get all your chicken and protein and stuff like that. And then as you go up, it's more just stuff that will keep. I mean, all the companies are gonna kind of offer the same amount of food because it is just like what you can actually have up there. It's not like they're spending more or less or anything like that. So if a company is advertising their food, that's actually probably not something you're gonna wanna prioritize. We were all camping together and we saw pretty much the same meals across the board, and it is very, very good. I had no complaints about the food. You can definitely bring extra power bars and stuff if you want, but I don't think they're necessary. I mean, maybe I ate 1 or 2 on the whole thing, but they definitely feed you enough. It's very, very good. Day 3. So this is where you're gonna really get into that altitude, because I think you get up to like 15,000 or so feet. You go and climb all the way up to, I think it's called the Shark's Tooth. So it's kind of like you go up, and then this is where you start to camp down low. You camp back down around 13,000, which is pretty much what you camp on day 2. But so like in America, like the 14ers in Colorado are thought to be like where people really get sick from altitude and they can't make it to the top. But already on day 3, you're already gonna be about 1,000 feet above those 14ers that people talk about. So the altitude is definitely starting to play a factor there, and that's where people really are starting to feel that altitude. You're starting to be very sluggish. Every step is painful. You're definitely gonna slow down everything. You're gonna get winded just by like standing up and rush to your head and stuff like that. But like I said, you do go up and then back down, so you get to camp at 13,000 feet. So by the time you go back down there, you kind of feel a little better and you have all this energy because your like body kind of got used to being up high like that. So that is nice that they start to really get you used to it. Already on day 3, you are super high up there. And day 3 was definitely a lot shorter. I think it was only 5 miles and maybe 5 or 6 hours. So it was pretty slow at that point. You're feeling pretty sluggish and not going very fast. But day 2 was much longer. It was one of the longest days. Not longest. We'll get to that. We'll get to all that coming. But one of the longest up till that point, and definitely the longest stretch of straight hiking was day 2. So once you get past that, you know every day is gonna be a little bit shorter. It's not gonna be easier, but it's gonna be shorter.
Day 2. Yeah, it will be long day for Lemosho Route because we choose 7 days. So the next days, it will be remain there. You're doing pole. The next day. I mean, day 3, day 4, day 5, pole.
Day 4. So day 4 was very different than the rest of the days because you're actually gonna be climbing on this day. So it's hand over hand, climbing up this wall, and you're kind of going straight up this wall and then straight back down. So it's a very short hike. I think it's maybe 3 miles, and it only took about maybe 3 or 4 hours. So pretty quick, much shorter than the rest of the days, but very different because like I said, you are climbing, which was very fun. I liked it a lot, but it's probably the most technical day just because you are actually having to use your hands instead of just walking up this mountain. You're actually gonna have to climb it a little bit, which was fun. But if you do have a little bit of like knee or leg problems or anything, that's the day to watch out for. So definitely talk to your guide about that. But I liked it a lot, and it was one of the quicker days, so we got to kind of rest a little bit on day 4 because you go up very high, I think 17,000, and then back down and sleep around maybe 13,000 again. You're still sleeping pretty low, which is good for your body to get used to it. Day 4 is where the meals though kind of start to get a little bit light. You're gonna mainly be doing your carbs at that point because it's kind of hard to keep protein that's gonna last up there. All the meats are kind of running low, and maybe eggs are running low a little bit, so you're kind of on rices and soups and veggies and things like that. So yeah, you start to feel a little bit tired from the food also, but they do give you a lot of coffee. It's really, really good, and so that kept us going a lot, and we were playing a lot of like card games and things like that, hanging out because we did have a little bit more downtime. It is also very fun because you're camping with the same people, so by day 3 and day 4, like you're making friends with all the people in your campsite. Even though you're not climbing together, you all meet up later at night and camp together. So we had this one Kiwi guy that was always hanging out at our tent. He was really, really fun. And then this British couple on their honeymoon. I don't know why you would do a honeymoon on Kilimanjaro because you're all hot, sweaty, and gross and you don't have a shower, so that kind of gets in the way of like the whole honeymoon festivities. But like if you're into that, go for it. So that was really cool hanging out with them, and they were really, really nice. And then these Swedish girls that would hang out a lot. So it was a lot of fun, just like, I don't know, having all the people on the mountain together, and you're all kind of like doing this together, and you meet up at the end of the day and all get to chat after dinner and stuff. So it's very fun in that aspect too. And then there's day 5. Now day 5, I think, is the highest dropout rate out of any of the days. And that is where it kind of started to hit our group. So Mel was not feeling it this day. She was getting hit by altitude sickness pretty hard. And altitude sickness is a funny thing because what happens is your brain starts to swell from not getting enough oxygen. So you get kind of like loopy and you get kind of just headaches and things like that. So it's not like sick. You can throw up from it. I mean, all of us ended up doing it, but we'll get to that. But it's mainly like your head. So she was getting this pounding headache and couldn't like think straight and couldn't walk. So we had 3 guys, Amos, Lucas, and Rashid. And Rashid and I stayed back with Mel and let the rest of the group go. And we just kind of like took our time and like we took slowly to the next level, just 1 foot every couple seconds, but we made it through. Mel was a champ. She got through day 5, and after that, she was like a little bit better. And on day 5 is when you reach base camp, but it's only about 2 miles, but it takes you, I think, about 4 hours or so. It may have taken us even longer just because you are so slow at that point, and you're so high up, and there's so little oxygen that 2 miles is like, takes you, I mean, a lot of the day. So when you reach base camp, you're just really gonna wanna relax and slow down and kind of unwind from the day, get used to being at base camp, up at that altitude, and just just play some cards, have a nice dinner, go to sleep. Just kidding, that's not gonna happen. So once you finish up that hike on day 5, which is one of the biggest struggles for most people, you have to just get a couple hours of sleep and then wake up, pack, and get ready at midnight to go make your summit attempt through the cold, through the snow, in the middle of the dark for 6 hours. So you're gonna be going from 15,000 feet all the way up to 19,340 feet to make your summit attempt and make it there by sunrise so that you can see the sun come up over the mountain. And all of that just sounds great, doesn't it? They kind of told us before the trip started, days 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, you're having fun, you're with your friends, you're climbing this mountain, you're in Kilimanjaro, all that kind of stuff. And then summit day comes, and that is just to do it. Nobody enjoys it, nobody likes it, but you do it to do it, and you get it done, and you take some pictures, and then you go back down. And they were so right. Summit attempt is so difficult. That day is like one of the most challenging things I've ever done in my life, because you wake up at midnight, you're freezing, you're wearing everything you have, but you're cold to the bone, you're sore and tired from 5 days of hiking, you can't really breathe because you're up this high. Everybody's feeling a little sick in their head and kind of nauseous. Patrick threw up before we even started. Mel was doing really, really bad this day. She woke up with a massive headache and didn't think she would be able to make it, but the guide was like, Mel, follow me. Every foot I do, you do. And so she just had her head down. She never looked up once. None of us really looked up because, I mean, you were in your mind, you were just like, why am I doing this? Why am I doing this? I don't want to do this. I want to go back down. I got to keep going. I have to make it to the top. And your mind is just like thinking the entire time, and you're so tired and you're so cold and you're so much in pain and you can't breathe. And it's just, summit attempt is something unlike anything else I've ever done in my life. And everybody doing it is in the same discomfort. And so we're just going, and you don't even have time to like really process what's going on. You just are putting your foot in front of the other, as slow as you possibly can, but also as fast as you possibly can. There's no difference at that point. You have one speed. And it's like that for 6 hours in the dark, in the snow, in the cold, climbing this mountain. And it is just unlike anything else. I mean, it is just pure like determination that gets you through that day. There's not much enjoyment. There's not much fun. There's not much conversation at all. There's not really anything to keep you going other than your own mind saying like, I'm gonna do this. That is the only thing that's gonna get you up there. And so you go, and 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 you go, until you finally reach Stella Point. Stella Point is kind of a turning point. That is one of the peaks of the mountain. And so after that, you kind of take a rest, and then you have your last little hour to make it to the summit. So if you're reaching Stella by like 5 a.m. like we did, you're doing pretty good. It's still pitch black outside, but the sun is like maybe about to start, and then you make your last home stretch. And guys, that is where it's like all worth it, is when you make it to the top. Because when you're up there, like, it's so emotional because you just kind of put your body through hell. You really have. I mean, you have accomplished something. It's just really, really cool because when the sun starts to come up, you're so high up in the sky that you can see the curvature of the earth, and it's like the sun is coming from everywhere. And unlike everything, because the snow kind of bleeds into the clouds, with the sun coming up and the clouds going on forever, and you're just on this mountain with these people and after accomplishing this thing, and it's unreal and it's so cool. And you take your picture at the top with the sign and everything, and I don't know, it's just such an amazing accomplishment. I think it wouldn't be as worth it if it wasn't for that summit attempt being so awful. I mean, that definitely makes you appreciate how crazy and amazing and how much of a struggle it was to get here, and why not everybody can do this. And like, I don't know, it just makes you really feel lucky to be up there and seeing this, because it's not a normal sight. So yes, summit day is super hard and it's a huge struggle and just one of the biggest challenges ever, but it was super emotional, and just getting to do it with these people was something incredibly special that I'll cherish for the rest of my life. Can't believe I got to do that, and that actually happened is something kind of crazy to me. So yeah, I definitely recommend it. If you are up for it and have the opportunity, it's worth it. I mean, it's not gonna be fun, that summit attempt, and it's gonna be cold, it's gonna be dark, you're gonna be in pain, but it's so worth it. And it's definitely just such a cool thing to put your body through and have to come out the other side. And so we went back down, and altitude sickness is weird, is where I thought like once you start to come back down, you should be better and stuff. And I hadn't really been feeling it too much at this point. I mean, Mel and Patrick were pretty bad, but me, Riley, and Jordan were okay. Riley and Jordan were taking Diamox, so the thing that makes your like blood thinner so you can get more oxygen or whatever. So they were fine with it, and I was okay at that point. But then once we stopped back at Stella Point, like I said, about an hour below, we had breakfast, we sat down, we had a little juice box, some chocolate, some crackers and things like that. And then after that, Amos, our main guide, was like, okay, we're ready, let's go down. And so I like stood up and was just like, blood rushed to my head and instantly was sick. And I was like, whoa, that came out of nowhere. Like, what the heck? That's where I started just to really feel the altitude. And so the way back down, that first part was really rough for me. And then Riley went down, and Riley started getting sick too. And so Mel and Patrick had kind of had their altitude sickness and passed it over to me and Riley, and we were just rough on that way back down. So on day 6, you make your summit attempt, and then you come back down to base camp and you rest a little bit, but then day 6 keeps on going. I mean, this is the long day for sure. So you are gonna go another like 8 miles or so down the mountains. It takes you like 6 days to get up, and then it only takes you a day and a half to get down. So you do most most of it that day. So we were climbing forever on the way back down, and the rocks are like super slippery on the way down. So you're like sliding on the sand, and it's like definitely good to have hiking poles if you have them at that point, because it's just very unstable and you're kind of not feeling well, and just things are, you're tired and like you got to get down somehow. And so like you definitely just go for it and do it. Because we started the day at 15,000 feet. We climbed up to 19,340 at the peak. And then I think we camped back down around 10,000. So we went back down another 9,000 feet. So we went back down to cloud level and stuff, and it was a lot. So we sleep back down in the rainforest again that night. But that night's really, really fun, because once you make it to camp, you see all the porters and stuff again, because they actually don't summit with you. You don't see them at all that day. None of them go to the summit. It's just your guides that go with you, the porters and cook and everybody like that. Go ahead and go down to the next camp and make everything set up there. And they do this big celebration for you when you make it. They sing all these songs, and it's really, really cool, and do these dances, and you get to be with them. And I don't know, they just are like so happy that you made it, because they're, I mean, yes, it's their job to climb along with us, but they get invested with us. They're talking with us the whole time, and we just had a lot of fun with them that night. And like, I don't know, the songs are so cool. The Jumbo song and the Kilimanjaro song, they were all like really cool. And I like, that was one of my favorite memories, was just hanging out with all of them that night, because like, I don't know, it's just like you've done this amazing thing, and now you're celebrating with everybody, and everybody wants to celebrate, even though you're still on the mountain and not back down yet. Once you make it through day 6, then it's back in fun again. So days 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 7 are awesome. Day 6, no. And then day 7 is your last day on the mountain, and you wake up and you hike another about 6 miles back down to the final gates, and that's where you're like completed, you're done, you did everything. And so it's very interesting how you took forever to go up, and then it's very quick on the way down. All of a sudden you blink and you're like back down at the gate, and your van's coming to pick you up and everything. And then when you do finish and make it back down to the ground, they do give you this little certificate. So everyone is signed by the like director general and the chief park warden. So I was number 987,607. I don't know if you can see that person to climb it. So I made it in the first 1 million, and yeah, so they have like your name, date, age, all of that kind of on it to certify that I made it all the way to the top of Kilimanjaro and through the Uhuru Peak and everything. So it's very cool they give you this, just kind of like as a little memento that you did it all. I don't know, it's just very awesome to have this experience behind us, and I love sharing it with you guys. So if you like this video, go ahead and give it a big thumbs up. Comment down below maybe what the hardest thing you ever done was. Was it something like climbing Kilimanjaro, or learning some new skill, or doing some sports competition, or whatever it may be? Comment down below. I love chatting with you guys. And yeah, we'll see you guys back here on Tuesday with another video. Goodbye.
Kilimanjaro, mlima mrefu sana. Kilimanjaro, 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 mlima mrefu sana. Na mawenzi, na mawenzi, na mawenzi, na mawenzi, mlima mrefu sana. Wewe nyoka, wewe nyoka, wewe nyoka.